Hello, good evening, class. Welcome to our today's class. And today I want to promise that I'll take a very short time. We want to deal with conventional methods in comparative studies. Conventional methods. There are contemporary attempts to system. Hello, is anybody there? Now, I'm saying that I'm going to deal with conventional methods in comparative studies. Conventional methods in comparative studies. There are contemporary attempts to systemize methodology in comparative education research. These methods include systematic area study and problem solving approach. You should know that systematic area study approach was propagated by George E. Peretti. Problem solving approach was propagated by Brian Holmes. Systematic area study. Let us look at systematic area study. Systematic area study approach makes a few assumptions. One of the assumptions that is made by systematic area study is that we can use this approach to make analytical surveys of systems of education in various countries or communities. Another assumption that is made by systematic area study approach is that the study of other educational systems acts as a mirror for evaluation of one's educational system. And lastly, there is this third assumption that is made by systematic area study approach. It makes an assumption that the multidisciplinary character of a country. So this study approach is a multidisciplinary in character. And this is the assumption that it makes. It assumes that we can rely on many fields of study, for example, sociology, history, economics, philosophy, geography, and politics. Some of the issues we deal with are so complex that they represent methodological problems. Solutions to these problems are not possible without multidisciplinary cooperation. We need skill other than educational knowledge to make sense out of similarities and differences among education systems. Now, constituents of systematic area study approach. What are the constituents of systematic area study approach? So, there are steps that could be followed when using systematic area study approach. And these steps are one, description, two, interpretation, three, juxtaposition, four, comparison, and lastly, suggestions or generalization and conclusions. Now, let us start with the description. Description starts with the extensive reading. The sources may be primary, secondary, or auxiliary. These sources will help to describe how things are. For example, the primary sources will include the eyewitness account, reports and transcripts of proceedings, written materials of various kinds, and also visits to schools. While secondary sources will include published works such as textbooks on education dealing with the countries under study. On the other hand, auxiliary sources will include materials or sources of information which may not be talking about education directly. Going through them, one is able to gain certain information about education of people. They include novels, storybooks, magazines, journals. That is when we are talking about auxiliary sources of information. Allow me to talk about the interpretation. The second step is the interpretation. In this step, we explain why things are the way they are. For example, explaining or interpreting the correct or the corrected information. We give reasons or justifications for the presence or absence of certain features in educational systems that we study. The reasons may include historical, geographical, social-cultural, economic, and political. Other disciplinary areas are used to explain why an educational system or aspect is the way it is. Now, before we continue, may I get from you if there is any problem? If there is any problem, if you're not getting me, kindly let me know. Yes, I'm waiting for you people to comment. Very good, very good. It is Ghana. What about the other name? I'm not getting the other name. Okay. So let us move to just juxtaposition. Juxtaposition. I want to talk about juxtaposition now that you've told us that we are clear. So the third step is that of juxtaposition. In this step, the information is put into groups or categories according to those features, which can be comparable and comparable features. In this way, similarities and differences can be clearly seen. The use of charts, bars, graphs, and sketches can be used to illustrate the information required. For example, we can give you a table about the East African countries. For example, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. For example, when talking about Kenya, we can look at primary school, the structure of Kenya. We have 8 years. This is the 844 system. We've been having 8 years in primary school, 4 years in secondary school, 4 years in higher education, and we have the total of 16 years in school. In Uganda, we have the following structure: 7 years in primary school. In secondary school, we have 4+2. That is 4 years in O level and 2 years in A level. Higher education, we have 3 years. And when you add the total of these years that one spends in school, that was at 16 years. How about Tanzania? The Tanzanian one is similar to Ugandan one. 7 years in primary school, 4 years in O level secondary, and 2 years in high level or A level secondary. We also have 3 years in higher education level, and that gives us a total of 16 years. How about Rwanda? Rwanda has 6 years. Pupils will spend 6 years in primary school, 3 years in junior secondary, and also 3 years in senior secondary. They also spend 4 years in higher education. That gives you 16 years. How about Burundi? Burundians have 6 years in primary, 3 years in junior secondary, 3 years in senior secondary, 4 years in higher education, and that gives us a total of 16 years. So the Burundian and Rwandan education are comparable. So what about the comparison? When we compare the features in one system with those of the other countries or institutions under study, when we are talking about comparison, we compare features of one system with those of other countries or other institutions under study. For example, we've compared the Ugandan and Tanzanian system of education and we have found out that they are similar. Similarly, the Rwandese and the Burundian education system are also similar, but the Kenyan one is very different from the rest. Other in that we have 8 years primary, 4 years secondary, 4 years higher education, but all of them lead to 16 years. We note or we take note of the similarities and reasons why there exist these similarities or differences. Now, let us move to suggestions, generalizations, and conclusions. On the basis of finding foreign steps, we draw conclusions and put forward suggestions for new lines of action. These are based on factors behind the similarities and differences which have been observed. Now, let us move to problem solving approach. Brian Holmes envisions Brian Holmes envisioned the field of comparative education as eminently practical in nature, providing the basis for the solutions in the educational problems. He spelled out the means of identifying a problem and its possible solutions and further suggestions, ways of predicting the greater a field of education. For the success of the approach, Holmes held that one, it is possible to use stages of reflective or philosophical thinking as put forward by John Dewey. Another assumption that was made by Holmes was that the functioning of reflective thinking is to clear up a confused situation, that is, to solve a problem. There is another assumption that can be made from Holmes' proposition, that is, that testing is possible, that is, making logical deductions from the hypothesis within the context of relevant factors and then comparing the predicted events in the actual event which are observed to flow from a selected course of action. Another assumption, and this is the fourth one, that we can make from this is that agreement between predicted and observed events provides verification of hypothesis, that is, an explanation of events that constitutes a successful solution of the confused situation. And lastly, that disagreement between the two types of events constitute a refutable of hypothesis. Friends, the enrollment had moved up to 21 and now we are only 16. These guys who are coming in and out, I don't know what's wrong with them. Does it mean that the class is too long? Now, during problem solving approach, we are supposed to follow the following steps. One, problem identification. Two, problem analysis. Three, proposed problem solution. Four, specification of the context. Five, the comparison. And lastly, we go to conclusion. During problem identification, this is what we are supposed to do. Problem identification involves selection of the vaguely perceived problem that catches our interest, like general dissatisfaction with the aspects of education. For example, poor examining performance, students' unrest, and gender issues. Two, problem analysis. This is where we intellectualize the vaguely perceived problem in general terms. A description of the conditions under which the problem is found should be given. Describe the trends that are related to vaguely perceived problem. Thirdly, look at the proposed problem solution. And here we describe the reforms proposed and policies put forward as solutions to the problem. This will help by providing the suggested solutions to the problem. When it comes to specification of the context, this is the fourth step that will involve the identification and description of factors, the determinants, and conditions likely to influence the outcomes of the proposed policy solution. These are factors, conditions, determinants, which, in our opinion, may have the may have been overlooked by those who propose solutions to the vaguely perceived problem. Now, under comparison, we compare the predicted and anticipated functions of activities. So we compare the predicted and anticipated functional activities with the actual observed practices. This is a verification stage. Have things worked out? So we ask ourselves, if things have worked out as anticipated by those proposed or those ones that are proposing the solutions, we compare with what you find out in relation to step 3 and step 4. And lastly, during conclusion, on the basis of the findings from this study, conclusions and predictions are made. Suggestions are then made for few lines of action. So that is about problem solving approach. Problem solving approach will use those steps. Thank you for those who are attending. I can see you are 20. At one point we were 22 and now we are 20. There are guys who are just coming to class, leaving, coming, leaving. I don't know what their problems are. But now today, comparative education is further away from a single methodology. Definition and new disputes concerning the scope and analysis categories of scholarship have emerged since the 1970s, giving rise to a wide disparity of approach, perspectives, and orientations. A number of factors have contributed to this. One, there is failure of traditional idea of explaining educational development worldwide. And two, emergency of alternative ideologies. Hence, the field still remains an ill-defined one. The research in this field has and will remain diverse, thus shifting the debate, but perhaps not resolving the issues and challenges concerning the theory and methodology in comparative education. Friends, I think that is a good place to stop. That is a good place to stop. And I want, first of all, to thank you for attending this class. You are not many. You are not many. We are very few. We have the likes of Tom Daniel, Munya Stephen, Florence Jerop, Sonia, Vela, Ratemo, Gerishom, Patience. Okay, that is okay. Trufena was worried. I was wondering what Rufena is. But we also have Vincent Kiplagat, we have Douglas, Mercy, Kennedy. Okay, I see you. So that is okay. Encourage your friends to visit to make sure that they also visit the YouTube channel. Let them listen to this class and they will be okay. Because we are now through with the methodology in comparative education, and tomorrow we shall be dealing with the systems, factors influencing systems of education in the world. Factors influencing systems of education in the world, and that will be okay. Um, Otherwise, if you have a concern, can raise it. And if you don't have a concern, I want to release you people so that you attend to other matters this evening. Otherwise, I want to thank those ones who have religiously been attending this class. Uh, uh, that is okay. Uh, Trufena, you have always attended my classes. Uh, don't take that for granted. You are a good student. You know why you are at the university. You know that you came to attend classes and that is what you're attending. I am asking others to emulate what Fena Wesibori has been doing from the beginning of our classes. She has always been attending, and that is okay. So I can see the 25 of you, you are there. Some of you have not mentioned your name. Don't think that I've not captured you. We have captured your names. And even those ones who captured our yesterday's lesson later on, I have your record. So encourage those ones who are not visiting this website to make sure that they visit. And those ones who are yet to subscribe, kindly subscribe. I gave you questions yesterday, and I believe you are working upon them. And when we meet on Wednesday, that will be okay. We have really moved. We have really moved, and I've told you that in less than 10 days we shall be having a sit-in cut. And a sit-in cut doesn't cover everything that I've covered. Uh, I'll be telling you the areas that you'll be reading because these other ones have been covered in the main exam. And when if you are preparing for the main exam, you'll have to read everything. But for the purposes of the cut, just a few areas that I'll point out soon. Uh, Aisha, you are talking about bundles. Yes, if they don't have bundles, it's okay. But still, let them visit this video tomorrow during daytime. Let them use the university Wi-Fi. There is always a tomorrow or another time. These videos are not going anywhere. There are some guys who have never been visited the course outline only, leave alone the introduction and these other areas. I follow all of them because all those videos are there and I look at them. Now, some of you may be wondering why we have very many people who have looked at the course outline because at the moment we are doing around 650 people have visited that course outline. Not all of them are students of University of Eldoret. I've checked the list, and some of them are students of Laikipia University. The students of Laikipia University, I want to congratulate you for visiting these websites because I've seen your names there, and I can't confuse them with those ones of University of Eldoret students. I know the list. I know. So continue visiting. That list is there. I'll print it and come with it. And I'll be coming to your college on Thursday so that we mark, we identify those ones that belong to your university. But otherwise, those ones who are not able to attend to these online classes, as I've always said, you are free not to attend. You are free not to attend because um, it is up to you. You can wait for the physical classes, which are there every week. But those ones who can attend, make sure that you attend and make use of them because they will really build you. They'll go a long way in developing you. Thank you very much. If you have any concern, make sure that you just write it. There was a guy who was talking of 2028. Did I mention anything about 2028? If I did, yes. Did I mention anything about 2028 in our previous lecture, yesterday's lecture? Anybody who listened to it and had something to do with the 2028? Probably will revisit and comment about it in the comment section and reply to you. Otherwise, have a good evening. Thank you for attending.